Al-Umm al-Hanoun. This is an Arabic expression which could be roughly translated as the tender mother or the kind mother. Welcome to my intuitive reactions, the MENA and Gulf regions. This is my YouTube episode number 27. Now you might well ask, why is Harry talking about mothers and motherhood, about Hanan or tenderness? Why today? Well, simply because today is Mother's Day in most Arab countries. I know in the United Kingdom, we've already celebrated Mother's Day and Mothering Sunday for that matter. And in the USA, it's something that will be done in May. However, in most Arab countries, it is celebrated on 21st March. And the jinns of Arabian lore have it that it actually dates back to the time of the pharaohs in Egypt, and particularly to the Queen Isis and the paintings in the temples that showed the attachment of the pharaohs to the concept of motherhood. But that goes back a little bit too far. Let me stick with more contemporary times and say that in modern times, Mother's Day was introduced in Egypt by a journalist, Mustafa Amin, and it was first celebrated in 1956. Amin, the journalist, took particular interest in the topic after a woman requested to meet him at his newspaper and told him about how she had raised her son as a single parent and paid for his education until he became a medical doctor and bought a house to get married in. She told him that since he got married, her son had stopped visiting her to the point where she got psychologically ill and couldn't find anyone to take care of her. So what did Amin do? He spoke to the Minister of Education in Cairo to create this day, Mother's Day. And it was approved by the then President Gamal Abdel Nasser, who announced in 1956 that mothers shall officially be celebrated on the 21st of March, and then much of the rest of the Arab world followed suit. Now, interestingly enough, when Amin was arrested after being accused of spying for the United States, the Egyptian government changed the name to Family Day. But they received so many letters of complaint from Egyptian mothers disapproving of this peremptory decision that it was renamed Mother's Day. So, coming forward from the 1950s to 2021, it's an important day. And it's an important day for most mothers in most Arab countries. And today, as I think of Eid al-Umm, again Arabic for Mother's Day, I remember my sister in Seattle with her two lovely kids, my nieces, of Karim, my sister-in-law in Jerusalem, with her three kids, my nephews and nieces. I remember Samar, a Palestinian who lives in Michigan, Reem, another Palestinian who lives in Geneva, of Maral, an Armenian who lives in Lebanon. All of them are mothers, and there are many more who are celebrating today that sense of festivity, of tenderness that is associated to this day. But of course, I cannot only talk about sisters and sisters-in-law and good friends. I also recall today, every year, my own mom. I was quite close to my mom, and I always considered her more of a friend than just my mother. and we had that ease of communication. But there is always a chip on my shoulder that I could not be helpful in her latter years, in the twilight of her years with us, when she became very sick, when she had Alzheimer's, and when her situation deteriorated quite quickly, and then she passed away. And here is where I must say thank you to both my sister and my brother, who literally took care of her every need, whilst I was away in Europe and in Cyprus. Well, Cyprus is part of Europe in a sense, working. So in addition to everybody else, I remember today my mom. It's my own chip on my own shoulder, but I will bear it and I do not forget it. But this YouTube episode is not only to introduce Mother's Day. Yes, most of the people listening to it will probably not realize that the Arab world celebrates mothers today. But it's not my way of celebrating my family and my friends. It's much broader than that. Today, I would like to remind you, the viewer, of all the mothers, all of them, across the whole MENA and Gulf regions, who are being celebrated by their sons and daughters. And if I look at some of those countries, I can well imagine that it is a sad day for many of the mothers. Look at the situation in Palestine. How many mothers today cannot have their sons with them and even their daughters with them because they are in Israeli jails? How many mothers cannot be with their sons and daughters in Syria because they've been separated due to the war that has lasted 10 years, because of the incredible violence, the structural and human violence of the regime in Syria against any dissenting citizen? How many mothers are not with their sons and daughters in Iraq, which is a country in flux? What about Libya? What about Yemen? Yes, Yemen. That country, beautiful country with beautiful architecture and wonderful people, that has been dragged into a war that has damaged and ruined the very fabric of the country. Do you think that they, like we did in the United Kingdom a week or two ago, like the Americans would do in May, like other parts of the Western world have done or will do too, do you think they will sit there around a table and have a nice cake and maybe a glass of bubbly or a lemonade and celebrate? No, because families are divided. Families are separated. Sometimes because of economic realities that are prevalent across much of the MENA region, perhaps because of political realities, because of war, because of oppression, because of human rights violations, because of egregious acts against individuals. These are the people I'm thinking of today. I salute them much more than I salute anybody else, be that family or friends, because they are long-suffering women who bear the brunt of the pain that is part and parcel of what we now call the MENA, or the Middle East, North Africa. Since I'm sort of throwing in Arabic words, I would like to remind my viewers that there is a very nice Arabic expression, تصنع الأمة. Mothers make nations. To all the mothers today, everywhere across the whole MENA region, to my family, near or extended, as well as to everybody who is celebrating this day, be that with joy, be that in togetherness, or be that with pain and separation. Mothers do make nations. And so for the Arab world, I say, Happy Mother's Day. I hope that their situation will improve come 21st of March, 2022. Take care and all the best.